two hands reached in, grabbed me under the arms and pulled me out of my body and catapulted me out of the roof of my house. And I flew across fields in the night sky. I had my own first-hand experience. I do not die. This experience was the universe, God woke up in me and looked out through my eyes, and in that instant knew what it was. All this supreme knowledge started flooding in. I knew that I was creating the reality that I was in. From that very first awakening, psychological fear was gone. I didn't worry about the future. I didn't reminisce on the past. I was just living in the present moment. And it just felt like I was free. It's basically like a simulation, and it looks real, it looks objective, everything's solid, and it just loses itself in this game, right? But the whole point of it is for it to remember itself and then help others to wake up. They said to me, we're going to show you the whole process of coming back into life. And they explained to me that a lifetime here on this planet is 20 minutes. And then they brought me over to what seemed like a virtual reality machine. You just put your face up against this, and then all of a sudden I was coming back down the tube of light, speeding. And as I was coming back in, I went, oh no, I've fallen for it again.
My guest today is Gareth Duignam, who had an incredible out-of-body experience and spiritual awakening. Now, I know that these videos are not as popular on my channel as the NDE, but if you watch any video, this is the one you're going to want to watch. We are going to cover astral travel, how the collective consciousness works. Gareth's experiences are absolutely out of this world. I rarely hear anybody speaking the way that he is. You are not going to want to miss this. So, Gareth, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us from all the way in Ireland.
Laurie, this is very exciting. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Yeah, brilliant. I can't wait to get into it.
This is going to be a great conversation because you have had some pretty unusual experiences. And so I am going to let you just kind of share with the audience whatever you would like to share about how this started and how this worked for you. And then we can dive in and ask a bunch of questions.
Okay, so I had grown up, I had a pretty normal upbringing, but I always had this very strange sense of not fitting in. I kind of felt like I just didn't belong. And as I started to go through my teenage years, I started to kind of develop a kind of a sense of like a fear of dying. I had this kind of fear. What was the purpose of life? Why was I doing all this if I was just going to die, right? And the body was going to disappear and I was going to disappear. And I just felt like I didn't fit in. Around 2005, I was given a book by a girlfriend at the time by Louise Hay. It was You Can Heal Your Life. And I started reading it and I was like, wow, I couldn't get over all of these new concepts that I was learning about how my thoughts created my reality and how I chose my parents. And I I didn't I was very open-minded to it, but still a little bit sort of like, oh, I really don't know much about this. So I put it to the test. I started doing a lot of the exercises, started doing affirmations and inner child work, and I noticed that my life started to get better. Pretty much within a matter of weeks, I started attracting more prosperity into my life. I seemed to be happier. I had more confidence. And I really started to notice that there was an intelligence in the universe, and that whatever I sent out, it was answering and it was coming back somehow. There was a law. I didn't understand it. So I then went on and I kind of got into manifestation. So I kind of created a nice business for myself. I had a house, and I kind of ran out of road with it. I kind of got a little bit bored. It was like, okay, I've done all this. What do I do now? And it kind of went on the back burner. A couple of years later, around 2010, it all got kicked up again. I discovered a book by Brian Wise called Many Lives, Many Masters. And I was like, wow, what is this? There's if there's past lives, he was a past life hypnotherapist. And I was like, if there's past lives, that means, if the body dies, there is something else, right? That my soul lives on. And I got really into this. And then it led me on to astral projection. YouTube was just kind of in its infancy at the time. And I started finding all these little 10-minute clips from a gentleman called Bob Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body. And I was just like, oh my God, every book I could find. I went onto Amazon and bought every out of body book I could find. Started practicing. There was all these exercises. I wanted to do this. I was like, if I can do this, then I know that I do not die. If I can have this experience where I can leave my body and fly around, then yeah, then my answers, my questions will have been answered. So I started practicing, and about 3 months later, I woke up one evening with vibrations running up and down my body. And I kind of knew what it was. I had been reading all about this vibrational state, and two hands reached in, grabbed me under the arms, and pulled me out of my body and catapulted me out of the roof of my house. And I flew across fields in the night sky. Eventually, I came down and I was like, I did it. I'm out of body. I was really excited. And a big elastic band snapped me back into my body. Jumped up, super excited. I couldn't believe what had just happened to me. I didn't sleep a wink that night. The next day, I kept walking around going, wow, this is real. This is not somebody's imagination. This is actually real. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, totally blown away. So over the next couple of weeks, this started to happen all by itself, night after night. Yeah, multiple times. Sometimes it would happen 2 or 3 times a night. And I started having out of body experiences. I was able to move my astral body to anywhere I wanted to, just using my mind. I was able to see dead people, spirits that were just sort of like wandering around the streets, sitting in rooms. They were everywhere. Um, and I felt really kind of like special. I felt like I had the universe had given me a really special gift that nobody else seemed to really have, or I didn't know of anyone really who could do this. So it went on for about a year and a half, and I had a lot of fun with it, but I don't feel that I actually made a whole lot of spiritual progress. I felt that my ego was having a good time. I had lots of things to talk about with people, tell them about all these magical experiences. And they started to die down. They got less and less. They went from a couple of times a week to maybe once or twice a month. And then they changed it more into sort of like lucid dreaming and fear tests. So I would wake up in dream scenarios, like in classrooms. Things would happen where I would have to like act things out. And if I got them wrong, I would have to go back and do them again. And this kind of played out then for a couple of years. I got an illness then. The illness um, kind of really took me out of action in terms of like what I was doing with my life. I was running a business. I was really into fitness, and it kind of stripped all that away from me. Um, and I eventually came around out of the other side of the illness, and around 2016, I was going into the gym one morning, and I don't know. I had this really eerie feeling that I was being watched for a couple of days prior to this experience. Um, I kind of felt that I was in the Truman Show. I felt that there was cameras following me around. I can't explain it. It was like I would hear songs, and I felt like the songs were trying to communicate with me. And then one morning, I went into the gym, and for some reason, I just looked out the window, and the sun was coming in through the window, and it something in me made me question where I was actually seeing the sun, right? And it you know, it was coming in through the window, but yet I was registering it inside of my consciousness. So I said to myself, the sun isn't out external from me, it's internal. The light it's in my consciousness. And I said, the music that I'm hearing through the speakers, that's not from an external source, that's actually happening within me. And as soon as I said that, I felt what I can only describe as two pieces of Velcro being torn apart inside my mind. And when the rip happened, it was like I just spoke about a lucid dream there, right? I had had many lucid dreams, and a lucid dream for any of the viewers who've never had one is when you're in a dream and something in the dream triggers you to realize that you're dreaming, right? And you actually wake up inside the dream and you realize that you're actually in a dream state. Well, this experience was the universe, God, I don't know what it woke up in me and looked out through my eyes, and in that instant knew that it had fallen asleep and dreamt itself into this character. And the decades that I had been going around, all, you know, my life, all my problems, my worries about my business and my money, everything had been this ongoing dream. And this higher power intelligence had just woke up and knew what it was. And then what happened was I started to look around, and then all this supreme knowledge started flooding in. I knew that I had dreamt myself into this character, and then I knew that what I was experiencing, I was also, I was creating the reality that I was in. So I was the walls, I was the music, I was the sun, all the other people were also me. And I knew that I had woke up in this one, and then I put my attention on the other people, and I was all of them, right? I was the intelligence that was in all of them, but I was still asleep in them. And I had just woke up in this one. The tears started coming. I started feeling bliss. I sat down on the bench. I was like, what has just happened? I was as high as a kite. I picked up my bag and left. And I never went back to the gym again after that. Actually, it's really, really funny. And I went to work. I had a really amazing day in work. I just felt so like, I don't know what happened. But the next day I woke up, the aperture that had opened up in the gym seemed to have closed down. So it wasn't this intense feeling of like God was looking out through my eyes. But the next day I woke up and there was like a sense of freedom. There was like something at the center of me now knew itself to be eternal. It was never born, and it will never die. And it's always present. It never sleeps, it never rests. It can't be damaged, it can't be killed. And that was awake to itself within me. And I now know it's called self-realization. So I had this new sense of freedom and spaciousness, and I was just felt like I'd been born again. Do you want to jump in there, or do you want me to
Oh
keep
my gosh, you know I'm dying to
jump
know. It's
in,
funny
jump in?
because you've been on single camera while you've been talking, and I've been making several faces, and I think when you went into your whole thing, I like felt like I was a dance concert, and I just started shaking my head up and down like and throwing my hair around because I just couldn't even believe what you just said. Okay, so there's so many things. I am so excited to talk to you a little bit more about this because you've mirrored in your waking experience and described to a small degree what I have had as an experience on the other side as the collective. I've had two very similar experiences to yours where I was fully aware that I was the collective. I called it the we. I found out that there are other people who have called it this. I did not know that at the time. And then I had an experience where I was the source looking out and I wasn't me anymore. And
Mm,
I knew that everything that was here was within that. And it's not very often that I get to talk to somebody who has had an experience like that, let alone in the human body, because when I come back, it's really hard to connect to that. It's hard to hold it here because the vibration is unlike anything that we have here. So what I'd really love for you to describe to people is what that vibration is and what you think this reality is.
Well, the only way like God is what came to me. It was like there was one intelligence, right? And I mean, God is loaded, and it doesn't sit
Yeah,
well with
that's
some
why I use
people.
source. Yes,
Yeah,
same.
source, God, the universe. It's
Yes.
one
Collective
intelligence,
consciousness. Yes.
and it's falling asleep. It's actually falling asleep to remember itself. So it seemed to me that it's playing a game, and it falls asleep and basically dreams itself into its own creation, and has this like ongoing dream day after day after day. It believes that it's the character. It's veiled, right? So the it's basically like a simulation, and it looks real, it looks objective, so everything's solid, and it just loses itself in this game, right? But the whole point of it is for it to remember. It wants to
Yes.
eventually remember itself and then help others to wake up from the
Yes.
dream.
Hello, welcome to the channel.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I do this channel, is because of what I understand from the other side. And I was shown that it was a game, and the word, oh, I want to share this with people, but I want people to take it with a grain of salt, because I don't want to minimize the experiences that people are in pain, in loss, in whatever situation it
Sure.
is. But Gareth, the word that has been used over and over again when I've had these experiences is inconsequential. And I think it ties back to what you meant when you said you can't be harmed. Nothing can happen to you. You weren't born, you didn't die. So it's an experience that we take super seriously. And I think the biggest fallacy of belief on this planet is that you think you're you and I think I'm me. Or
Yeah.
not. We're just
Yeah.
the one entity having an experience veiled to pretend to be you, to be me, to have these multi-dimensional billions of experiences, and not just from the human, but from every animal, from the plants, from the trees, from the mycelium in the ground, like insects, all of it.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear your thoughts on what you feel about that.
Yes. So this experience, it then turned into an unfoldment of consciousness. It wasn't just this one uh peak experience. It then started to unfold, right? And then the next stage that started to happen was I would start to go out into nature, right? And the awareness that woke up internally in me started to now look out through my eyes, and it started to recognize itself in everything. So I would go for walks, and it felt,
I just got goosebumps all over when you said that.
and I would see, it was like as if I was seeing for the first time, everything was vibrant. Like everything had new colors, everything was fresh. The sun would and it was the same walk that I had done 100 times, right? But it was new. And I was seeing that I was like the dog running, I was like the cars going by. Consciousness was seeing itself, and the 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 feedback mechanism seemed to be bliss. So it was coming back, and I was feeling blissed all the time. I'd be sitting on the sofa. I didn't want to do anything. I was like, wow, I've just won the lottery here. Um,
I love that you said that. I feel the same way, because it changes how you look at everything. When you realize you really are everything, then that means that everything is happening for you and not to you anymore. And when you approach things, they start to shift and change. So tell everybody what this did to your life with the mundane issues, the money things, the business, the job. Like,
yeah,
how did that begin to shift for you? Because I think this is what people are looking for. As you wake up, there's a why. Why are we doing this? Why are we waking up? What is, if that's the purpose of the game, then what?
Yeah. So from that very first awakening, psychological fear was gone. I just did not have psychological fear. I didn't worry about the future. I didn't reminisce on the past. I was just living in the present moment. You know, and it just felt like I was free. I didn't have to worry. Whatever was going on in my external life, I was going to be okay. Right? That was just a sense. Everything was fine as long as I stayed in the present moment. There was no fear. There was no worry. The awakening kept deepening. So it wasn't just that I was having these experiences and then that was it. It kept unfolding. There was another stage where I was meditating and I saw a white light inside my mind that exploded, and the explosion went out into all what seemed like the four corners of the universe. Everything went really silent, and then it imploded back in, and everything went quiet. It's still. And what happened was the edges of me disappeared in this shift. And my consciousness now sort of like went panoramic. It was overspilling out of my what felt like the confinements of me. And I felt like I was one with everything always, always. Like there was just no boundaries anymore. And the center seemed to have gone by. And life just felt like it was happening. There was no longer me at the center, like, trying to, like, doership. The sense of doership kind of fell away. And it was just happening. Everything was happening. Um,
Gareth, when you describe that, you brought tears to my eyes because I know what you are speaking is the ultimate truth. Like this consciousness that we are pervades and the power of it and the magnificence of it. And I wish for 1 second, every soul living on this planet right now could experience what they really and truly are, because it changes everything about how you look at another.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Yeah, for me, this kept unfolding. It just kept going. There was deeper layers. I started to be shown past lives. So I was shown a series of past lives. I was also shown a life when I'm not in a human form. I exist in this other reality. I'm not a humanoid. I'm something else. We briefly spoke beforehand about plant medicines, and one of the things about that plant medicine is this space that a lot of people go into, this void. And that happened to me, where my awareness was faced with this black abyss, basically. And I went into the abyss and I became nothing. It was like the dark side of God, right? Whatever God is, what God came from was this primordial nothingness. No experience, no exist, nothing.
I'm so glad you're saying this. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, I used to have this recurring thought that I would just repeat in my mind over and over again. And it was, what if there is nothing? Nothing is something. Like, that's a pretty deep thought for a 6 or 7 year old. And what I've kind of understood over time is that it was uh it was something to hold on to, like a breadcrumb, to
Mm,
remind me of what was coming and what we are. Like, you come in awake and that fades because life happens, and the things and experiences we have as children are often discounted by adults as imagination, overactive imagination, whatever you want to label it. It's not taken seriously, and it's not encouraged.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, yeah, how could they though, right? How could just the regular adult mind comprehend any of this stuff? It's
I
something
know.
that has to be experienced.
It and
Um,
again, and yes, that's true, but people can still glean pieces that they can implement into their lives from the implementation and integration that you've had to go through for this. So here's what I wanna go back to. First of all, I love some of these books that you shared. You shared Dr. Brian Weiss. He, for me, was also a massive early in my spiritual journey. And I realized Western culture doesn't support multiple lives, but I think that there's a mountain of evidence. The fact that we are even questioning that that is a reality is laughable to me with all the evidence that I've been able to come across. And it's evidential evidence. It's not just somebody saying something, things that can be proven. These children remembering details that they should not have access to, going into a town, walking through a town, pointing people out, pointing out where they lived, just the knowledge, like there's no way. So that's one thing. So I think that there was no accident that you found that book and I found that book. And anybody listening, I'm going to put all these books that Gareth is speaking about in the show notes just for you to be able to explore if you're drawn to that or not. But let's go into that area and talk about some of these astral travel and these past lives and how they've affected your current life or how they've given you enough information to be able to process and understand things from a different vantage point.
Well, okay, so the biggest the astral travel, right, for me, that was a huge it was so important because of the fear of death, right? I believed that I was just a physical body. And when I had that first astral projection, right, I knew it wasn't that I read about it, it wasn't somebody else telling me. I had my own first-hand experience. I do not die. Maybe my body dies, my spirit will live on. So that was huge.
Then Bob Monroe's come up a bunch of times. So let's tell
I love
people
Bob.
about the process because again, people are looking for what can I implement into my life to have an experience like this. And if somebody's tuned in, they're ripe for this or they would not have been drawn to this conversation. So,
Absolutely. I would say go and buy Bob's 3 books.
okay.
Journeys Out of the Body, Far Journeys, and Ultimate Journeys.
I'll link them in the show
Yeah,
description.
they're the best. I have read them books multiple times. They're
So
incredible.
he created a series of binaural beats.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess that you use some of this to help you.
I did, but they never worked for me.
They didn't. Okay, so I've had a similar experience. I've never been able to achieve, but I also
Yeah.
haven't worked with them for very long. But I have talked to multiple people on this show, and I should link some of the people that I've talked to in the pinned comment so people can go and find some of those videos because there are people who will help somebody using binaural beats to get out. So, what ultimately do you think was the catalyst that lets you leave your body? And before you answer that, I'm going to ask 2 questions about that specific experience that was really interesting. You said the first time it happened, you felt 2 hands reach into your
Yeah.
body and pull you out. Who were those hands? And the second thing you said, elastic snapped me back into my body. And were
Yeah.
you tethered by the silver cord or another cord? And is that what snapped you back?
Okay, so I don't know who the hands were. I have an idea. I did reach out to somebody who was actually very closely connected to Bob Monroe. They were part of his Explorer team back in the Monroe Institute, and I actually became a student of it was Tom Campbell,
Oh,
very
I
well
knew you were
known.
gonna say Tom Campbell. Come on. I just listened to a Tom Campbell interview last night. Come on.
So Tom was my teacher for like 10 years. I went and I traveled and I did retreats with Tom in person. He was one of my biggest teachers when I was having all of these experiences in the non-physical. It was Tom Campbell would turn up. He would sit in front of me. We would talk about consciousness. Like he was so important to me. I love Tom.
I
So
love Tom too. I haven't met him. Maybe you can
he's
help me have him on
He's
the show.
wonderful. Yes. Tom is wonderful. So Tom, I reached out to Tom. It was like he had like 14 friends on Facebook at the time. It was 2010, and he wrote back to me, and I was saying, Tom, I can't get out of body. I've been practicing for months, so and literally 2 nights later, 2 hands reached in, pulled me out of my body. I'm not saying it was Tom, but It could have been Tom.
I think it totally could have been Tom.
Totally could have been Tom.
Did you ever ask
Y
him?
no, no, I have spoke to Tom a couple of times. I never asked him. He might, yeah, I don't think he would tell you anyway.
He probably
He's
wouldn't
very
tell you
candid.
because he is
No.
so awake.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then the other question, what was the other question? The
The hands and the the elastic part.
the elastic part is just, I think it's just a mechanism that just resets you back into the body. If you get too excited, boom, you're back in. It happened multiple times.
Is it kind of similar to that feeling when you're starting to drift off and you're jolted back into your body? Do you think you're starting to leave and you're jolted back?
Oh, 100%. We leave our bodies every night as we're falling asleep.
I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's some
Multiple times.
science behind that. I think that the pineal gland is just letting a tiny bit of DMT, which naturally occurs. And it's a mediator. It helps you get out of the body. I think it helps the soul come in and leave the body. Near death
Yeah.
experiences, I think it's a mediator. There's a whole bunch of research by Dr. Rick Straussman about this, which is fascinating. But yes, I think that that's the mechanism of how we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. What else was there? There was another one.
So those were the 2 parts of it, but so you worked with Tom, and what did he do specifically to help you figure it out after those binaural beats weren't working? Or do you think it was whatever reached in and pulled you out? And could the average person who's working on this ask for a spirit guide or somebody on the other side to help them?
Yeah. So as look, we are all it, right? We are all consciousness, and I think it's possible for anybody to do it
I
if they
agree.
really want to do it. But I put so much work into it. I was doing affirmations all day long. I was trying, I it's not that the binaural beats didn't work. Maybe they added to it, right? But I just wasn't having out of body experiences with them. That's not to say that they weren't helpful. They were like they're training your brain. So I think maybe it was like uh every single thing that I did was important to have that thing. And I think once you get out, then it's way easier than not, your first time trying to get out because you've never done it. Once it happens, it's like you break a seal or something.
So you said that you began to see spirits on the other side when you were doing these
Yes.
journeys. So give us an example of some spirits that you encountered. And I'm curious to know if these were truly spirits on the other side or if they were spirits that were just, I'm going to use the word for back. I don't think it really works this way, but stuck or putting themselves in this earth plane and not past that earth plane onto the true other higher self side?
Okay, so one night so the vibrations would come, and what I would do to get out of body was I would imagine myself rolling like a log. So my astral body would start to roll. So my physical body would still be asleep in the bed, and my astral body would start to separate. And I would imagine myself rolling off the bed. And many times I would roll out of the body and fall from the bed through the ceiling, the floor. And one evening I did it. I fell through the ceiling and was in my sitting room. And when I looked around, I noticed 2 teenage girls sat in my living room on the floor with pillows on their laps. They were wearing pajamas. They were about 12, maybe 13, and they were talking to each other like little, girls do, like at a slumber party. And I was stood kind of towards the door, and I was just kind of looking at them. And then the 2 of them looked at me, and they were afraid of me. They screamed, and both of them ran through the wall. And I thought that was really strange, and I moved over to where they were, and like you don't walk, it's like you use your mind to move the astral body around. And when I got over to where they were, I looked, and for some reason, well, there's a mirror over my fireplace. I was able to see my reflection in the mirror, and I was completely transparent. It looked like I was made of water. I could see through my face. I had this kind of shimmering, I don't know what. I looked like I was made of water or liquid. but I could see that it was my face. So yeah, I don't know. Are them, you know, I guess they were just dead girls, right? That were just sort of hanging around. I would get out onto the roads. I would see just spirits walking around. They're everywhere, everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
Did you ever see any person that you would have recognized either from your life or who may have had some notoriety, like an ascended master of any kind?
No. I mean, not in the out of body things. Later on, yes. Later on in meditation experiences, I had a lot of deities turn up. I had Krishna turned up, the goddess Kali, Durga, um, Shiva turned up. A whole load of them turned up. Um, so yes, even one time I had Jesus turned up in a meditation. So do they exist? I think they do. I think they do. Yeah.
But ultimately, they're just you,
Yeah. Yeah.
just the one
Yeah.
thing. So if the purpose is to wake up, and it's funny because it's just so fresh in my mind. I was listening to this not even 12 hours ago. Tom Campbell was talking about the consciousness and what things were like on the other side and when you die and the experiences that you have. So, what do you think is the true purpose other than waking up? What are we doing here?
Okay. So Tom, as Tom would say, right? He uses physics language, and he always talks about entropy. He talks about entropy. But for me, what I sense is that we're becoming love, right? It's just we're becoming love. We're getting rid of fear. We're growing up. So even though I had all of these experiences and I had multiple spiritual awakenings, my human still isn't perfect. It's not a perfect human. I can always be more loving. I can always be kinder. I can always try and like solve things with more compassion. That part of it, I don't think ever stops. As long as you're in a human body, I don't think it stops. And I think what happens is we just refine that over lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. I don't get the sense that we just become enlightened and that's it. We merge back in with source. Um, yeah, I that's what I sense is that it's just a kind of we figure it out and then we come back and we help others. That's my
So, why do you think we're becoming love? Tell us why.
because for consciousness. So at the top, I seen what God and consciousness was at its very highest level. There was nothingness. There was primordial nothingness, and from that nothingness came the mind of God, right? And the mind of God was this cyan blue, pure potential, pure love, brilliant. It was like this, and I got into it. I got into it one time, and it was like I never wanted to get out of it. Um, so my sense is that I'm both of them things, right? My soul is a droplet of that nothingness, and then my being, my free will awareness is a spark of that blue God, right? The mind of God. And both of them have descended down into creation to have experience. Okay. And at the there was a trinity at the top. There was the nothingness, there was the mind of God, and then there was what I would call the divine mother. Tom Campbell would call it the supercomputer, right? And she's creating the realities that we're in, right? So she's everything you see, that's her. She's creating that. And she's creating reality and she's destructive. And she creates it. So our soul and our spark come down into that to have experience. So we have experience, we love, we lose, we enjoy life. And what I feel is that everything that we do here is somehow being fed back to that mind of God in order to keep itself to evolve.
So do you see a point in time and Tom talked about this last night. I've been talking about this on my channel for 2 years. Do you see a point in time where we wake up or enough of us wake up to flip the collective?
I mean, yeah, funny enough, I heard Tom talking. I was in the UK with Tom about 6 years ago in Lumley Castle, and somebody asked him a very similar question. And he said, well, what happens if enough of us get it? And what happens to this virtual reality we're in? And Tom seemed to think that the system will just create a new virtual reality for us to start off again. So,
Like from hopefully not from the from the
well,
bad part. Well,
well,
and I'm using that with air quotes, but yes.
I mean, okay, so my understanding is, right, so I was shown my three previous past lives, and I had actually awakened in the three previous past lives. And then I was shown what I am when I'm not in a human body. And the whole concept of like what reincarnation was shown to me there. So I was this very strange triangular, little small head, triangular body. I kind of floated. We used telepathy to speak to one another. My family were there. And I was shown that that's where I go when I'm not in a human form. That's where I reside, right? And they said to me, okay, we're going to show you the whole process of coming back into life, right? So they said, do you want to go back in? I said, sure. And they explained to me that a lifetime here on this planet is 20 minutes. So, so from that side, it's like 20 minutes. And then they brought me over to what seemed like a virtual reality machine, right? And they said, you just put your face up against this, and then you go in, and you'll be back in 20 minutes, right? And they were like, why wouldn't you go in? And I was like, okay, let's do it, right? And so I put my face up against it, and then all of a sudden I was coming back down the tube of light, speeding. And as I was coming back in, I went, oh no, I've fallen for it again. And it kind of dawned on me that, like, oh, I have to learn how to walk, talk. I have to go through being a teenager. It wasn't that I kind of felt like I was tricked, but not tricked. I made the decision, but when I went in, I was like, this isn't 20 minutes from this side. It's 80 something
Exactly.
years.
I love so much that you said that. I have talked to many people and I felt this way also that it to us, like when we lose a passed away loved one, when they're on the other side to them, it feels like they saw us yesterday and they're going to see us tomorrow because
Yeah.
time is so different. Where us, we're like, oh my gosh, 20 years without them or 50 years without them. But I've never heard anybody explain this 20 minutes, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense, right? If loved ones, it's only a matter of minutes for them. Like they're just stood there going, "Okay, hurry up," and then boom, you're back. But for us, I mean, I know people have taken plant medicines, right? And they've
Yeah.
had multiple lifetimes played out in a matter of 15 minutes.
Right, right, because it would have been that fast if you didn't have the time constraint.
Exactly.
That's a really unique perspective that I haven't heard somebody say out loud before, but man, that makes so much sense. Gareth, I wish that I had another hour with you. I usually do these interviews so much longer, but I've got a time constraint today and I'm so
No
upset.
problem.
But I have a very, very good feeling that we will be working together in another capacity and having these communications, and then this you'll be back on again.
Oh, definitely. Bring me back on because I've only scratched the surface. There's a whole thing of like what I do with the Kundalini energy transmissions. I can do a demonstration that your viewers can actually feel like a real transmission that will come through the video. We can do that the next
Let's
time.
book that and we'll do that. I think that would be a great New Year's video to release. Let's start the new
Absolutely.
year for all. I love
I'm
this.
up for it. I'm up for it. It's been a lot of fun. You've asked amazing questions. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that right about now, anybody else who's watching is like, where do I find him? Because I know you do these amazing retreats and you work with people. So tell everybody how they can work with you, how they can find you.
Well, I wrote a book. So if you want to find out my full story, I wrote a book. It's called Waking Up from the Dream, and you can get that on Amazon. And I have an audio book. They can go to my website. It's called truespiritualawakening.eu. and I do lots of free meditations every Tuesday and Friday. People can join the meditations, and I do like an energy transmission. So, I mean, it kind of has a feel of like energy healing. So they're free. I have a YouTube channel. They can go on as well. I live stream all the meditations. Yeah, and I do retreats all around the world.
Beautiful. Well, Gareth, this has been such an amazing conversation. I feel like the luckiest person to be able to have a deep conversation like this. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you are doing to help wake up the collective. I know you understand really what I'm saying when I say that to you.
So much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you
And
to
of
the viewers.
Of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these amazing experiences. So thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This channel's for seekers, for hearts who remember there's something more. Subscribe to join the awakening.